Hello and welcome to Bible Bites Daily. Today we have reached 1 Kings chapter 1, a chapter that's filled with drama, intrigue, and a powerful lesson about God's sovereignty and our need to trust in His plans. This chapter tells the story of the transition of kingship from David to Solomon. Amidst attempts by others to seize power, as we dive into this narrative, we uncover the single important lesson: God's plans will prevail, and we must trust in His timing and wisdom. The chapter begins with King David in his old age, unable to keep warm despite many blankets. Seeing his frailty, his servants find Abishag, a young woman, to care for him. Meanwhile, Adonijah, one of David's sons, declares himself king without David's approval. He gathers chariots, horsemen, and 50 men to run before him, trying to secure his claim to the throne. Adonijah's self-appointment creates tension. He excludes key figures like Nathan the prophet, Jodak the priest, and Solomon, indicating his disregard for God's will. Adonijah's actions are driven by ambition and impatience, reflecting a desire to grasp power by his own means rather than seeking God's direction. Nathan the prophet, aware of Adonijah's actions, approaches Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. He advises her to inform David of Adonijah's actions and remind him of his promise that Solomon would be king. Bathsheba goes to David and recounts Adonijah's actions and David's promise regarding Solomon. Nathan follows, confirming Bathsheba's words and urging David to act. Moved by Bathsheba's and Nathan's pleas, David takes decisive action. He orders Jodak the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah to anoint Solomon as king. They obey, and Solomon is anointed as Gihon. Accompanied by great celebration, the people rejoice, recognizing Solomon as the rightful king chosen by God and David. The single important lesson from this chapter is that God's plans will always prevail, and we must trust in His timing and wisdom. Adonijah's attempt to seize the throne prematurely and without divine approval leads to his downfall. In contrast, Solomon's ascent to the throne, guided by God's will and David's obedience, reflects the blessings of following God's plan. Imagine the scene. King David, though weak and frail, finds the strength to assert God's will in his final days. Bathsheba's concern for her son and Nathan's courage to speak up reflect their faith in God's promise. Their actions, driven by faith rather than ambition, lead to Solomon's rightful anointing. As Solomon is anointed, the city erupts in joy. The people recognize the hand of God in this moment, celebrating the fulfillment of His promise. Solomon's merciful treatment of Adonijah further exemplifies the wisdom and grace that come from following God's guidance. In our lives, we may face situations where we are tempted to take matters into our own hands. Driven by impatience or ambition, Adonijah's story reminds us of the dangers of acting outside of God's will. Conversely, Solomon's story encourages us to trust in God's timing and wisdom, knowing that His plans are always for our good. Let us learn from these events, and when circumstances seem uncertain, God's wisdom far surpasses our understanding, and His plans will always prevail. Thank you for joining us today. May God bless you all in abundance.